suspect a lot of people shared my excitement when they heard this.
In moments, the Duke of Sussex will be hurtling headfirst 60 miles an hour down a winding track of ice in the mountains of Canada.
Well, fortunately, Harry emerged unscathed and made it back up the slopes to deliver a heartwarming message of peace and reconciliation. At least that was the plan.
We see it on a day-to-day basis. The strength of the family unit coming together.
How have you processed the fact that there's so much happening back with your family?
I have my own family,
right.
So as we all do. I've got other trips planned that would take me through the UK or back to the UK. I'll stop in and see my family as much as I can.
Really? Even in a small C softball interview with American Breakfast Television, Harry is prickly and defensive, and with good reason. Illness will bring us back together, he says, before immediately clarifying that he's staying on the opposite side of the world because actually he's got plenty of his own things to be getting on with. But
Piers Morgan just can't stand it that Harry is moving on. He's a man, he's a big baller, he has his own agendas. He's not going to be a spare all his life. He's not going to be sitting around waiting for somebody to tell him what to do, how to do it, what to say, when to get up, when to get down, when to appear, when not to appear. Harry has developed into a man, a real man who has a wife and kids, and he has more to think about than just doing charity events. He likes to do them. He was raised to do those charity events and to help those charities fundraise and to make sure they have a sponsor and somebody they can talk with about their needs and to give them visibility in the country. But the country doesn't want that. They want Harry as he was when he was 17. They're not going to get the old Harry. Harry has now grown up. He's a man, and these people have to move on. Yes, Harry has his own family, and he loves his kids. If his kids are in Montecito, you are going to be sure that Harry is mostly in Montecito. But he will travel for his work. So that means he will go to Canada for the Invictus Games, and he will take his wife Meghan. He may eventually take his kids, but I advise them to be very careful about exposing their kids to these mean, nasty, vengeful, jealous people in England, because they will just pull that wrath out and extend it to the kids. They extend it to everybody. They even don't like Doria. I mean, Doria has been just a gem and has saved many people in this whole sad situation. But they don't want that. They want Harry to suffer. And they don't like the fact that he's living a life that he is adapting to and partially enjoying in Montecito, and that he is still doing his charity work through the Invictus Games and any other way he can help. He wants to work in and help in England also, but they won't pull out the welcome mat. Every time he comes, they try to make him look like a failure, a loser, a beggar, a whatever. And you have to welcome people in for them to want to come back to your house. If people come to your house with bundles of food and warm blankets, and you go and call them names and kick them and hit them and everything and try to demean them, they're not going to want to come back with more baskets of food. So you keep doing this, you will lose Harry, and you'll lose Meghan, and you'll lose the kids, because kids don't want to be around people who are treating their family poorly.
Rest assured, loyal subjects, he'll still pop in when he feels like it, if he can, time permitting. Later in the same interview, Harry makes a stunning admission that he's not considering becoming an American citizen.
Would you think about becoming a citizen?
I have considered it,
Yeah?
Everybody who lives in America for a while considers becoming an American citizen. There are lots of advantages to being an American citizen. For Harry, because of his special status, there are disadvantages of becoming an American citizen because he was raised in the royal family and they are a peculiar bunch. And Harry has been used to that lifestyle since he was born. And of course, he doesn't want to give up everything he grew up in. But you consider it. You consider becoming an American citizen.
What would stop you from doing it?
I have no idea.
You know what it might be? You have to give up your titles if you become a US citizen. I'd say that being a senior member of the British royal family, whose only remaining relevance comes from monetising his ever-weakening royal links, is a pretty obvious barrier. Whether the US authorities would even consider making Harry a citizen after he gloated about his prodigious drug use in his memoir Spare is another issue.
Now, America would love to have Harry as a citizen because he is well educated, he is a special bond to England, and he would be a very valuable asset. Now let's talk about that drug use. That drug use was encouraged by the security agents that were supposed to be protecting Harry. Now, if that were my kid and I had hired and paid millions of dollars to men who were supposed to protect Harry at school and during his outside life, in other words, they're supposed to protect people from poisoning him. What I can see is that these agents did nothing. They allowed Harry to drink various poisons, and they even took pictures of Harry as he was under the influence of these poisons, and they were publicized so that the British public could make fun of Harry. That is not the way I would have treated my child. I would have fired those agents. I would have found out who was giving drugs to my child and his friends, and I would have dealt with it. Also, they had pictures of Harry in that car. I can never forget that picture of Harry in the car, angry, which he has a lot of reason to be angry. His mother was killed, and this woman who was boinking his father and who caused a problem in his mother's marriage, she was trying to get into the house, and she was in the house, and she was taking up all the time with the dad. So that time that Harry wanted with dad was given to this other woman. Harry had a lot of good reasons to be angry. He had a lot of good reasons to be resentful. He had a lot of good reasons to be sad. He had a lot of good reasons to be fearful. He had a lot of good reasons to be cautious. He was a lonely kid because the castle separated William from Harry. Just like people say that the people around the king are separating the king from Harry. That was Harry's life. Harry had that all his life. People were always keeping Harry out of places because there were secrets, there were things going on that Harry was not supposed to get involved in. And so that meeting with the king probably reminded Harry of those many years he spent in the castle where aides of William and the king and the queen were always keeping Harry out. Harry always had to ask permission to see his brother and the queen. His father wasn't even there, but when he was there, yes, Harry had to ask permission to see him too.
Just hours after revealing that he might abandon Britain for good, Harry began his briefings all over again. This time let it be known that, heroically, he's prepared to don his ginger cape and soar back to Britain.
Now, calling that a ginger cape, I think, is racist. It would be same as if somebody said to a black, trying to, that he was trying to get rid of his black cape, or a blonde girl trying to get rid of her blonde cape. The color of Harry's hair has absolutely nothing to do with the story, and that just shows Piers Morgan being racist by trying to bring in the color of Harry's hair.
Fulfilling some of the ailing king's duties while he's treated. In a typically irritating millennial missive, Harry has offered a, quote, hybrid working model.
And as I said before, everybody in the royal family is doing a hybrid working model. William is the daddy. He is being daddy daycare. He's taking care of the children. He's not out there working like he's supposed to be for a 40-year-old man. He's out there being Mr. Mom. Princess Anne, she's working part-time, and when she gets tired, she just goes home. Other Beatrice and Eugenie aren't even working, but I guess they show up occasionally. And the king is part-time because, of course, he's taking his medications and other drugs, and he will only be seen when able. So they really need to reconsider. The queen, she was full-time, but she was a miserable mom. She only saw her kids a few minutes in the morning and a few minutes before they went to sleep. Otherwise, she was working full-time, and you can see she did a disastrous job raising her child, Charles, and the grandchildren, William and Harry.
Legal equivalent of meeting on Zoom in your underpants.
Prince Harry is keen to be reconciled with his father and has been telling people that he wants a return, that he's happy to step in some sort of temporary royal role while his father's away unwell. Obviously, the king has cancer. He's away from public duties. But also, Princess of Wales is off. She's recovering from abdominal surgery. She's not going to be around till Easter. What I've been told is that Prince Harry is very keen. He's always wanted to have a foot back in the fold. He never really wanted to be all the way out.
So why in the world don't you let him in? There's nobody there. The king's gone. Camilla's there. She's more than happy to take over, but she is the mistress who had no respect for the royal family in the first place, because if she had respect for the royal family, she wouldn't have interfered in the marriage between Charles and Diana. She had no respect for that family. She had no respect for the kids. Now she wants to be king. Come on. She's the only person left. William, they don't want William because he's not ready. He's only in his 40s. They want him to go home and sit with the kids and, not get involved in the royal affairs. He said one thing about the Israel-Gaza war, and the whole country is in an uproar. So he's going to get ready to get the same Harry treatment after a while. But right now they're laying hands off him. And Anne, Princess Anne, she comes in periodically, does a little bit, then goes home. She's in her 70s. And, she doesn't want to be doing that all the time. She's old. She wants to sit back and relax and enjoy her money. So Beatrice and Eugenie would be happy to step in. But of course they have their own issues, and their mother is dying of melanoma, metastatic melanoma. So I don't know what these people want. Maybe they need to get rid of the royal family altogether if they are going to be so critical of every move they make and so judgmental. I would like to know more about Piers Morgan's private life, because I have a feeling he is a terrible father and family member.
All very valiant, Harry, but there's one little problem. Nobody wants you back.
Piers doesn't want him back, that's for sure, because Piers is making lots and lots of money on bashing Harry and Meghan, and if he can get a hold of those kids, he's going to bash them too for the rest of his life. And so keep the kids away from the media, keep them covered. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be Michael Jackson-esque in order to keep the media out. But Piers definitely wants to ride this Harry-Meghan train as long as he can, and as long as he can find people who hate the royals, hate Harry, and just want to complain.
4 years ago, Harry and Meghan abandoned the royal family and the monarchy and resigned their royal duties to embark on a new life in California.
As well they should have, because they were being treated so poorly. Nobody wants to come in and have people like Piers, peeking around the corner and assessing their lives. Piers, I think, has a miserable life, and that's how he can spend all of his time criticizing this couple. If he were a happy man, he would not involve himself this much in another family's household.
The late Queen was crystal clear at the time. You cannot be half in, half out.
Well, the Queen thought you couldn't be half in, half out because she was willing to sacrifice her marriage. Now, the Queen never had really had sex with Prince Philip. I mean, he was there and he was willing to do royal duties, walk beside her and stuff, but I don't think he did more than required as far as producing children And he was out on the Navy ship, sailing here and there, going to various countries, and dating women around the world. So she was willing to give up her marriage. She was willing to give up her kids. She was willing to give up her grandkids for the monarchy. But this is a different generation. Now we have internet, and you can see that families do live a better life, and these kids are going to want a better life than the life that was lived by Queen Elizabeth. If you want somebody who's going to live and give up everything as she did in the 50s, you're going to have to go back to the 1950s, but that's impossible. So move on.
Go, you're gone for good. And it seems that the king himself has agreed with that. Harry jetted into the UK immediately after hearing his father's cancer diagnosis. No one can criticise him for that. But he might have been surprised at the less than hearty reception. The king's aides made Harry stay in a hotel. He was allowed just one hasty 30-minute meeting at Clarence House.
Nothing wrong with staying in a hotel because Harry had other things to do. Harry's a working guy, and he can't spend his whole life sitting around moaning that the king has an illness. After all, he's in his 70s. He's at the age where people do get a terminal illness and die. So it is expected, but Harry showed great compassion by getting on an airplane, coming over to England, saying that he was concerned, looking his dad in the eye, and asking if he was all right, anything he can do. He was willing to help. And then Camilla, I assume, came in and rushed Harry out of there because she was afraid that they might bond. So she got Charles on a helicopter, got him to Sandringham, and Harry, content that he had at least extended his hand and openness to love and compassion for his father, had to leave. Now, he didn't go see William because William knew he was in the country and didn't extend any greetings to Harry. And, of course, Kate is in hiding. So, we'll move on here.
Not at Sandringham, where the king flew off on his helicopter to recuperate. Because, you know why? They were kind of worried that they wouldn't get rid of Harry. And also a little bit worried that someone who's committed...
Well, they didn't have to worry about getting rid of Harry. Harry had, as I said, jobs to do. He wasn't planning to stay long. He was showing the appropriate love and compassion one would show for a parent who has an illness, and just to find out whether or not, do I have to be concerned like you're dying tomorrow, or is this a long-term illness that we'll just have to adapt to? Everybody goes through this. Every single person who has a parent goes through this same thing. But Piers, what kind of creep is he?
Did all the private thoughts of his family to books, podcasts, and television interviews in a scathing, derogatory manner, might just do it all over again.
You never know what people are going to do, and that's part of having a family. Everyone with a family, some people are similar, and some people in the family are different. Some people have one value, some people have another. That's part of being in a family, and learning how to get along and how to resolve problems is also part of a family. But Harry grew up in a family where isolation was the thing, and so that Harry, when he wanted to talk over problems with William, he often found himself unable to access William because the aides, quote unquote, or the guards, or the men in gray suits, would stand between Harry and William and say, well, you have to make an appointment, and you can't make an appointment because William is studying, William is here, William is there. And so Harry understands the isolation and anger and aggravation and anxiety that's created by this very, very sick royal family.
They also knew that the king is a 75-year-old man being treated for a very serious illness and needs time to rest. He doesn't need to be part of the ongoing Sussex psychodrama.
Hey, he created the psychodrama. He's the father, you remember? Father. He's the father of William and Harry. And he abandoned those children for his sexual interests. And this is what you get. You know, if you're a bad father, you're going to get kids with problems. And that's what William has. And that's what Charles has done. And so he has William and Harry. Both of them are mentally in need. But again, Charles is making it all about him. Now, Charles is old. He's going to die, and he needs to invest more time in the future. That would be William and Harry and their children. We don't need to know more and more about this dying man. We need to know more and more about the future of England, and that's going to be in the youthful generations, present and to come.
Now compare and contrast the dignified behaviour of Prince William, who's been taking care of his wife and only just returned to public duties. Last night he attended the BAFTAs and glided around the place with the gravitas and decorum.
That's right, he glided around the place. What kind of job is that, gliding around a place? Those people meant nothing to him, and he meant nothing to them. He just was there shaking hands. They didn't need him at the BAFTAs. They needed him elsewhere. Maybe serving his country, maybe helping his wife, maybe looking after his dad, whatever. BAFTAs really were not in need of Prince William. And that's called mistaking the priorities, misplacing where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. It did nothing to help his image for him to hang around at the BAFTAs shaking hands of actors.
That he always does. No vainglorious narcissism, no attention seeking,
no attention seeking. Did you see that picture of William at the BAFTAs? They had a huge clear circle around him where nobody could enter. I mean, that is attention seeking. When you are at a function and one person is hogging up all the space with their security and one person is in the middle, that would be William. That is attention seeking. Get real.
Self-pity. Of course, there was no meeting at all last week between Harry and his brother. Harry's supporters, apparently there are some of them somewhere, felt that was
here
spiteful. Really? They must have had the recall skills of a goldfish or...
I'm a goldfish.
President Biden. Don't forget that this time last year...
Now, all this bashing about President Biden, look, you have a senile old king and you're focusing all this attention on him, but yet you want to bash America's president, the president of the United States. Come on, you guys, get real.
The royals were still reeling from Harry and Meghan's Netflix show, which condemned Britain and the monarchy as irredeemably racist and torched the reputation.
Look, how many black friends did Queen Elizabeth have? I don't remember her having any. So she was brought up at a time, 1950s, when blacks were definitely held as inferior and they were really all servants. Now let's look at Queen Victoria. At the end of her life, she found her pleasure with an Indian man who was dark-skinned, and he was treated terribly because he had dark skin. And so the women do enjoy dark-skinned men, as Queen Victoria let us know. But, you know, it was still racism. Queen Victoria had to work daily to protect her dark-skinned friend and lover.
Of their closest family members.
Just stocked up on a ton.
Well, this is about one into commercial, and I'm going to end it because I've run out of tape. So, what do you think? Like and subscribe.